I'm going to show you how we can have our transitions on our Chakra components execute on scroll today. Just like that. So let's get started on this. All I have here is a fresh Chakra project. I'm going to start by creating this section which will hold our property cards. So we will need a box which is going to have the height of our viewport, which will be 100 VH, and the maximum width. So width would be full. Then we'll need to import that. I'll also give it a padding on the left and right of, let's go with 250 pixels, and a padding on top and bottom of, let's say, 60 pixels. Okay, let's see what it looks like in our fine. So I'll give it a heading as well. We can align text in the center. We'll need to import the heading too. We can just call this our properties. Save that. Text center. Text line center. Okay, text line center. Then let's get a little color. So let's say color teal 500. Okay. Space the letters a bit. Is that spacing? Okay. Then we'll want to give this some padding on the bottom of, let's say, 60 pixels as well. Looks about fine. Okay, we can now create our card components. So I'll create a folder called components, then create a new file called card.txt. Then in this we can import React. Then we can export const card. Now, just for example, I'm only going to pass in an image prop. The rest will just share their text data. So the image, I'll actually call this image. Image SRC will be of the type string. Then we can go ahead and return a box to start with. Save that. We'll need to import the box. Okay, within the box we're going to have our image. Save that. The box width will be full. Then we can pass the image SRC in here, which will load our image, and we need to import that from Chakra, I believe. Now, in here we can import our card, but first of all I'm going to do then we can add a HStack here, which will hold our cards component. So we need to import this from Chakra. Again, so save that. Then we'll give this a spacing of 50 pixels, which will just be the spacing between our card components. Then we can go ahead and add our cards. So just for this example, I'll put 3, and we need to import that from our components files. Save that. Then we need 3 images. So I have just 3 images here. So I'm going to create a new folder which I'll call assets, and I'll drag these house images in here. Then I'll go ahead and import each of call this x1 from assets and what the files called? They are called house1.jpg. Go ahead and copy this line, paste it twice. Then I can go and change the number of these. We've got our images here. We can then pass the image source. And 3. Okay, go save that. Oh, that should be correct. Okay, so we've got our images displaying. Then we can go ahead and add some text to these. So let's create a box again. We'll give it a padding of 6. On this box, we can give it, let's give it a border radius of LG. We'll give it a border width 1 pixels. We'll hide the, in fact, we won't need to hide the overflow. We'll give it a cursor or pointer. Save that. So then, so that's displaying okay. So I'll give each of the cards a heading, which we need to import from Chakra. I'll call this, just give it a random address, so 123 Long Road, America. Save that, then we'll give it some text in here, which I'll just get some lower refs in. Need to import that too. Okay, so I'll reduce the font size of this to 20 pixels. I'll give it a letter spacing of 1 pixels. Font size. And you can give it a padding on the bottom of, let's say, let's see how that looks. Okay, that's looking fine. I'll need to hide the overflow to carved images, so on here I'll go overflow hidden. That carves our image. Okay, so we've got our cards. So what we want to do now is look at animating these cards in. So I'm going to go back to my app file and create another box. So this box is just going to be 100 VH and full width again. I will give it a background of, let's go with like a dark grey color, 700. So I just created this section so we can move our boxes out of frame, so we can see how we're going to animate them when we scroll down. So to do the animation, we are going to use a plugin called React Viewport, which is here. This uses the intersection observer API, which is compatible on most modern browsers. We can see here there is a polyfill you can use that will make it more compatible on legacy browsers, but it'll be fine for what we're looking for here. So I'll go ahead and copy the installation, paste it in here. Okay, so now it's done, I can start a project again. And while that's starting, I can import views in viewport from the plugin we just installed. So let's go ahead and use this hook. So we can go const equals using viewport. So this takes the reference of the container. It takes the config, which has a property called root margin, which is the offset in pixels of when you want the container to be considered in the viewport. So if you've got a container of, let's say, a height 300 pixels and you don't want it to be considered in the viewport until it's halfway shown on the screen, you can do an offset of minus 150. For this, let's go 200 pixels to start with and see how that goes. Then we also need to pass it a config, which takes the property disconnect and leave, which can set from false to now, and also takes props, but we don't need to use any of them, so we can just leave that blank. So I'll also define our reference, so use ref from React and pass it null. Then I will assign this ref on our container here and save that. We can then accept the variable in viewport, which I'll console log here so you can see this working. So if I go back to my app, refresh this. So we can see it was printed at false, and when I scrolled down, it went to true, and then when it scrolls out, it goes back to false, and then true again. So that's that working. We can then go to Chakra and look at the transitions. So transitions. There's a bunch of different transitions here. For this example, I'm just going to use the scale fade. So I'll go ahead and copy this, and I will wrap our box inside this. I'll need to import that from Chakra. Then in the isOpenProp, I'm going to pass it the is in viewport. And if we go back to our app, wrong one. Okay, we've got this weird scaling going on. I think that's because we need to wrap this inside another box and give it the width of 100%. That should fix that, which it does. Okay, so what this scale fade is actually a motion framer container. So we could actually pass it a while hover property to increase the scale to, let's say, 1.1 when we're hovering over it, which is quite cool. And the animation should now work when we scroll down. See how it fades in. I'm going to increase this to, let's say, 300 pixels. Okay, that looks pretty good. One problem is if I add another section in our app, so let's copy this and paste it below our card section. We'll see how they fade out and the animation continues. If you only want the animation to show once while you're scrolling, what you can do is, if we go back here, instead of using in viewport, it actually has a counter called enter count, which is how many times the component has entered the viewport. So if we just take this, change that to whenever it's over 0, it's considered in. So that will always be true after our initial, after the component initially enters the viewport. So if we scroll down there, see how it doesn't fade away anymore, it just stays constant. Pretty slick, pretty easy. I will put this code on my repo if you want to check it out, but that's everything from me. Thanks for watching.